On a sunny day, a racist Karen demands that Will Smith leave his own pool, triggering an unbelievable chain of events that no one could have anticipated. The gun felt heavier than Will had expected. In the movies, people wielded pistols with casual ease, but this was different. The metal pressed cold against his palm as he stood in the doorway of his childhood bedroom, staring at the man who had once been his hero. "What are you doing here?" His father's voice cracked, eyes darting between Will's face and the weapon in his trembling hand. 20 years older but somehow smaller now, Marcus Smith sat on the edge of the bed they'd built together when Will was 12. The blue flannel, sheets, his mother's last Christmas gift before she died, were still there, faded but recognizable. "I found it," Will said, his voice steadier than his grip. "The letter, her journal, everything." The color drained from his father's face. Outside, rain battered the windows of the old Victorian house that had stood silent witness to their fractured history. Lightning flashed, casting harsh shadows across the floorboards where Will had once played, oblivious to the secrets buried beneath the foundation of their lives. "Son, please, put that down." Marcus raised his hands slowly. "Whatever you think. You know, I know enough." Will took one step forward, then another. The floorboard by the dresser creaked just as it always had. "You let me believe, all these years, that she abandoned us, or that she just walked away." Marcus's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "It wasn't that simple." "Nothing ever is, right?" Will laughed, a hollow sound that frightened even himself. "That's what you always taught me. Life is complicated, son. Funny how your complications always seem to benefit you." Thunder rolled overhead as if nature itself were responding to the charge. The house groaned with age and memory. "You have a daughter now, don't you?" Marcus's voice softened. "Karen, right? 7 years old?" The mention of his daughter's name from his father's lips sent a jolt through Will's body. The gun wavered. "Don't you dare bring her into this. I'm just saying. One day she might be standing where you are now, holding something dangerous, thinking she understands everything." Marcus's gaze held steady. "And maybe if you're lucky, she'll give you a chance to explain before she pulls that trigger." Will's finger tensed. 25 years of questions, 15 years of absence, 1 moment of truth. "Start talking," he said, the gun still raised. "You've got 5 minutes to tell me why I shouldn't finish what you started." The playground smelled of wood chips and possibility. Will Smith, 8 years old and fearless, hung upside down from the monkey bars, his red sneakers pointing toward the clouds. "Higher, Dad! Watch me go higher!" he called out, his face flushed with blood and excitement. Marcus Smith looked up from his newspaper, shielding his eyes against the autumn sun. "I see you, champion. Be careful now." These Saturday mornings were sacred, just father and son, while Mom caught up on sleep after her night shifts at the hospital. Later, they would pick up chocolate croissants from Thompson's Bakery and bring them home as a surprise. This was their ritual, their bond, unbreakable as the laws of physics, or so Will had thought. 6 months later, the playground visits stopped. His mother was gone. "Left us," his father said, voice rough with what Will mistook for grief. There were no notes, no calls, no answers to the questions that piled up like the unopened mail on the kitchen counter. "Sometimes people just need to start over," Marcus explained, pouring himself another drink as he stared at the wall. "Your mom? She had her demons." Will learned to stop asking. He learned to navigate his father's moods, the prolonged silences, the sudden bursts of affection, the rages that seemed to come from nowhere and vanish just as quickly. He adapted, as children do, to the new reality. It was just the two of them now against a world that took without warning. Marcus Smith worked construction, building homes for other families, while their own seemed held together with duct tape and silence. He taught Will how to use tools, how to fix what was broken, how to make something sturdy enough to last. "Always check your foundation," he'd say, tapping his temple with a calloused finger. "Everything crumbles if you build on lies." The irony would only become apparent years later. As a teenager, Will found a photograph tucked behind the water heater while searching for a dropped screw. His mother, younger than he'd ever seen her, with a woman who looked remarkably like her. An aunt, perhaps, or an older sister he'd never known about. They were laughing, arms linked, standing before a lake that seemed familiar somehow. When he showed it to his father, Marcus snatched it away, his face darkening with something Will couldn't name. "Where did you get this?" he demanded. "It was behind the water heater. Who's that with Mom?" His father stared at the photograph for a long moment before crumpling it in his fist. "Nobody important," he said finally. "Just someone who used to cause trouble. Don't go digging in places you don't belong, son." The incident faded from memory as Will navigated the complexities of high school, college applications, and his first serious relationship. He excelled in architecture, drawn to the precise mathematics of creating spaces that could withstand time and pressure. His designs won awards. His professors saw promise. By 22, he had a degree, a job offer from a prestigious firm in Los Angeles, and a girlfriend who made him believe in second chances. On the night before his cross-country move, his father handed him a small wooden box. "Your mother would have wanted you to have this," Marcus said, his voice thick. "She was always proud of you." Inside was a delicate silver watch with an inscription, "To Linda, my North Star. Forever. M." "Who's M?" Will asked, turning the watch over in his hands. His father's eyes shifted away. "Just some guy she knew. Before me. Doesn't matter now." It was the last significant conversation they had about his mother. As Will built his career in California, their communications dwindled to holiday calls and occasional emails. When Will met Margaret, fell in love and married her, Marcus attended the wedding but left early, citing exhaustion from the travel. When Karen was born, he sent a silver baby rattle but declined the invitation to visit. "The construction business. Here's busy these days," he explained over the phone. "Maybe next year." Next year became another, then another, until Will stopped expecting anything different. He had his own family now. Margaret with her infectious laugh and endless patience. Karen with her curious mind and his mother's eyes. He had a life built on blueprints of his own design, not the salvaged materials of his childhood. But foundations have a way of shifting, revealing cracks in what was thought to be solid ground. The call came on a Tuesday afternoon as Will reviewed plans for a sustainable housing development. "Mr. Smith, this is Gloria Lopez from Summit County Records Office. We've been renovating our storage facility and came across some sealed documents that were meant to be delivered to you." "I think you have the wrong person," Will said, distracted by the error in the measurements before him. "I don't live in Summit County." "No, sir, but you were born there. These documents were part of a sealed case file from 1995. According to our records, they were to be delivered to you upon your 25th birthday, but it appears there was an irregularity in the processing." Will's pencil stopped moving. "What kind of documents?" "I'm not at liberty to say, sir, but they relate to a Linda Smith, and they've been waiting for you for quite some time." The package arrived 3 days later. Will waited until Margaret had taken Karen to her piano lesson before opening it on the kitchen island. Inside was a county-sealed envelope, a smaller handwritten envelope with his name on it, and a leather-bound journal. The county documents spoke in the dispassionate language of the law. Autopsy report, death certificate, police statements, cause of death, blunt force trauma, manner of death, homicide. The clinical details of his mother's last moments lay bare on crisp white pages, each word a hammer blow to everything he thought he knew. She hadn't left. She had been taken. The smaller envelope contained a letter written in his mother's handwriting, dated just days before her death. In it, she detailed her plans to leave Marcus, to take Will with her to her sister Teresa's lake house, where they would start fresh. She wrote of Marcus's escalating anger, of threats made in whispers while Will slept, of money hidden in the lining of an old coat in case they needed to run. "If you're reading this, my darling boy, and I'm not there to explain, know that I would never willingly leave you. You are the light of my life, my reason for everything. I hope one day you'll understand why I had to make this choice. The journal chronicled years of what his mother had endured. The isolation, the control, the fear that grew like ivy around their lives, hidden from view but slowly strangling. Will. Read until his eyes burned, until the sun set and the house grew dark around him. When Margaret returned with Karen, he kissed them both, held them longer than usual and said he needed to go out for a while. "Is everything okay?" Margaret asked, concern darkening her eyes. "No," he answered honestly. "But I need to handle something. I'll explain when I get back." He drove through the night across 3 states toward the house he'd grown up in, toward the man who had built his life on the grave of Will's mother and called it protection. "She was going to take you away from me," Marcus said, his voice barely audible over the rain. 4 minutes had passed. The gun remained between them, a physical manifestation of 2 decades of lies. "She was trying to save me," Will corrected. "From you." "From what she thought I was," Marcus insisted. "Linda, she had problems, imagined things. The doctors called it paranoia, but she wouldn't stay on her medication. Don't you dare try to gaslight me the way you did her." Will's grip tightened. "I read her journal. I saw the hospital records. Those bruises weren't imagined." Marcus's shoulders sagged. "I loved your mother. I loved her so much it made me crazy sometimes. Yes, I hurt her, I'm not denying that. But her death, God help me, Will. It was an accident. An accident you covered up. An accident you turned into abandonment." The words tasted like bile. "You buried her by the lake and told me she left us. You let me grow up hating her when I should have been hating you." "I was protecting you." Marcus's voice rose, then broke. "What was I supposed to do? Let you grow up knowing your father was a murderer? Let them take you away to some foster home? I made a terrible mistake, but everything after, every sacrifice, every lie, was for you." Will took a step back, suddenly, dizzy with the weight of it all. He thought of Karen, of her absolute trust in him, of the way Margaret looked at him sometimes like he was the answer to questions she'd carried her whole life. "My entire existence is built on your lies," he said softly. "Do you have any idea what that feels like?" Marcus's eyes fixed on some middle distance, seeing something beyond the walls of the room. "Your mother asked me that same question the night it happened." The gun felt impossibly heavy now, pulling Will's arm downward with the gravity of choices that couldn't be undone. "I should shoot you," he whispered, "or call the police. Why shouldn't I?" Marcus looked up, tears streaming freely now. "You should. I've been waiting 20 years for this moment. Do what you need to do." Will's finger trembled against the trigger. One movement, just the slightest pressure, and the scales would balance. Justice would be served. His mother would be vindicated. But Karen's face flashed in his mind, her smile when he built her treehouse, her laughter when he taught her to skip stones across the lake near their home. The lake that had always felt somehow familiar, though he'd never understood why until now. The sound of the gun clattering to the floor was deafening in the small room. Will's legs gave out, and he sank to his knees, sobs racking his body like storm waves. "I can't," he gasped. "I can't become you." Marcus remained still on the bed, watching his son crumble beneath the revelation that had defined both their lives. "What happens now?" he asked finally. Will looked up, his face tear-streaked, but resolute. "Now we tell the truth, all of it. To the police, to your neighbors, to anyone who ever wondered where Linda Smith went. And then I go home to my family and try to build something honest from the wreckage you left me." Winter sunlight streamed through the windows of Teresa Clark's lakeside cabin, catching dust motes in its golden beams. Will sat at the worn kitchen table across from the aunt he'd never known existed, the woman from the crumpled photograph who had his mother's laugh and the same crease between her eyebrows when she concentrated. "She loved this place," Teresa said, pouring more coffee into Will's mug. "We spent every summer here as kids. She always said the lake had healing properties, something about the way light moves on water, washing everything clean." On the porch, Margaret helped Karen adjust her mittens before they ventured out to explore the frozen shoreline. There, breath fogged the air, little clouds of life against the stark winter landscape. "I wish I'd known," Will said. "About this place, about you, about her." Teresa reached across the table, her hand warm on his. "You know now. And your mother. She'd be so proud of the man you've become, of the father you are." Marcus Smith had been sentenced to 15 years for manslaughter and evidence tampering. The prosecutor had pushed for a murder charge, but the passage of time and lack of forensic evidence had complicated the case. At the sentencing, Will had read a statement, not for his father's benefit, but for the record, for history, for his mother's memory. "The truth doesn't heal everything," he'd said, looking directly at Marcus as cameras flashed around the courtroom. "But secrets poison everything they touch. Today I choose to break that cycle." Now watching his daughter discover the lakeshore that had been his mother's sanctuary, Will felt something shifting within him. Not forgiveness, not yet, but perhaps the beginning of release. "Margaret thinks we should move here," he said, surprising himself with the admission. "Start an architecture firm focused on restorative spaces, places for healing." Teresa smiled, the family resemblance striking in the gentle lift of her mouth. Linda would have liked that idea, creating something new from something broken. Karen's laughter drifted through the window as she discovered a perfect skipping stone, flat and smooth despite the season. Margaret demonstrated the technique, her wrist flicking gracefully. The stone bounced once, twice, 3 times across, the ice before sliding to a stop. Will watched them, these women who carried his heart standing on the shore where his mother had once stood. The past could not be undone, but the future, that was still a foundation he could build with his own hands, checking each stone for strength and truth before setting it in place. "I think," he said, rising from the table to join his family by the lake, "it's time to start over."